Hello and welcome to this month's Tips at 2. And today I'm going to do more line work because it's my favourite thing really. I love doing line work. So I'm going to again use several of the new brushes from my brush collection because they are my favourite brushes and they work so beautifully, so I'm bound to use them, I'm afraid. Yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing, some line work. I want to show you, because I did some last month, and I just fancy showing you some other things you can do. I mean, this is particularly useful for beginners, but everybody needs a brush up, and you know, if you can improve your line work, I reckon that is the most important thing in your face painting education. In case you don't know me, it's Juliet Eve of Facade Academy, and I'm also running the fan club now as well, which is the membership club. So yeah, that's regular weekly class. So I've been playing around, just doing a few little things now just to get my hand back in, as it were. So I've just done some classic TTTs and some these are comma strokes, so from going from thick down to thin, more comma strokes there. Then I was doing some leopard spots, and I can show you how to do spider legs. Very, very quick way to do them. Nice and easy, very useful for doing your Spider-Man spider, which I do quite a lot. I'll do some more dots. Ignore that one, got a bit smudged. Some different methods, and I'll also show you a bit of the Art Nouveau strokes, which I love doing, and some pigtails. It's an unusual thing to do, but I find it really quick to give a bit of a flourish and a fast way of edging butterflies and things. That's good. And a quick way of doing stamens on flowers. Show you that. These are some tri-dots, and maybe I can show you how to do some unicorn horns just using my Desert Island brush. So I'll show you that. Oh, and also a really good thing for practice for you all is to learn what I call dancing on tiptoe. And it's I always teach this when I'm in class and I'm showing new people. It teaches you how to paint on the very tip of the brush, and then how to make it thicker and back up onto the tip. So we'll show you that as well. So there's a few things to get us going. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Desert Island number 4. And if anyone doesn't know already, but this is a very, very sharply pointed brush, and that's why I love it. So you can, it helps you to make fine points at the end of each line. So I'll just do a few because I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing this, but this is the absolute basics. This is the first thing you should learn when you're doing your line work. So loading and getting the right consistency. I always make a hole in the bottom of my paint, and so you've got somewhere to mix the right consistency. Now load up your brush, and you can see it's very full there. So now I'm going to very, very gently wipe. You don't want to empty out the reservoir, but you just want to get rid of the excess on the outside and get left with a fine point. So we start at the top of the page. Actually, we're okay there, aren't we? All right, so very fine starting point. Always start on the move, brush at about 45-degree angles, and start on the move. So it's very fine, thin, thick, thin. Yeah, and that's what to practice over and over and over. If you find it difficult to finish with a fine line, then twist your brush. And what you need to practice as much as possible is learning how to make them very long and also short. Okay, so long ones and short ones. So I'm going to now show you about the dancing on tiptoe. And as I say, anybody who's struggling to get really fine lines, then this is what I recommend. So again, fill the brush so the reservoir is full from the top to the bottom, and then put your brush dead upright so it's absolutely perpendicular to the surface, and then try and draw the finest possible line that you can. That is the trick. Sorry, bit of a wobble. So we do a super fine, like as fewer bristles as you can, going in every different direction, and then occasionally you just drop down, make a fat bit, and then back up to the tip again, press down onto the tip again. So just by doing this over and over, you will learn about the pressure of the brush and how keeping on the tip makes very fine lines. Learn to press down and up and out. So every single direction. But as I say, do it with the brush upright, which means that you can go in every direction very easily. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Might help you see. Okay. That's a little bit closer, might help you. Okay, so that's the TTT, the thin, thick, thin, and the little dancing on tiptoes. Right, now let me show you the, what I call the Art Nouveau. I'm going to do it in a different colour. You'll be able to see better this difference. So the Art Nouveau is a very useful stroke. It just makes a change from doing endless swirls, which we all get into the habit of doing without thinking. Just move over there a little bit. So the Art Nouveau stroke starts very thin, you make a swirl, and then you come back in on yourself, all right? So it's thin, get thick, come back in yourself, and then come out. So that's the shape you're aiming for, and you can vary it, make it longer and fatter and thinner and everything else, different directions. So I can do a really long one. These are great again for making butterfly shapes. Always try and finish on a very thin tip. And it's just very reminiscent of the Art Nouveau lines. Okay, so that's the idea there. You can also do that using the switch swiping, works quite well. Maria, this brush here is my Desert Art. This is the number 4. I also do have a number 6. I'll do some with a number 6 now. So these are from the Juliet Eve collection. So that's the 4 and the 6. So at the moment I've been working with the 4. And the beauty of these brushes is you can go very thin and back to very thick as well. Okay, I'll get some green now to do a different sort of line. Now I'm going to show you some what I call pigtails. Again, very useful for doing butterflies. So this is my number 6. Just means that you've got, if you use a number 6, you've got more variety, so you can get much thicker and still very, very thin. These have got such a sharp point. So let me start down here and do the pigtails. So we go. And it's as simple as that. You just make a twirl at the end. Now you might not think it's very useful, but I'll do a butterfly, and you can see how it works. Because if you make them shorter each time, it gives a really interesting edge to a butterfly. So if the body is here, if it was, I don't normally do bodies, but I'm just trying to get a center so we can see where we're going. And then the wing would come out like that. Okay, that's the top line. And then the next one would be further in, so it'd finish about here. And again further in. And the lower wings you can do in the same kind of way. So if somebody's eye was sort of here, say, then I could do an even this sort of thing. It's just a quick way to do some slightly different line work. But it's as I say, I call it a pigtail. I know I've swelled inwards there, but you come out like that. It just gives a slightly different feel to it. All right, next let's do, I'll show you the stamens, because these are really easy when you're doing flowers, and it might look a very obvious thing to do, but if you've, say, painted a flower, have that as my center, and we'll just do some petals, just however you chose to do them. All right. And then you can make the stamens using, I'm just again using my Desert Islands, the number 4. So you can just flick out, and you can use a liner if you want. And then simply at the end of each, just do a little line like that. And it's just a very quick way to create flowers, just a tiny little drop down. Seems obvious, but very useful. Okay, now let's have a go at doing some dots. I want to show you some tricks with some dots, and I'll use my dot comma. So the dot comma brush, this is a number 4, and it's not as pointed. Still got a point, but not as pointed. And this is brilliant for doing dots and comma strokes. And if you'd seen the last one I did, the last tips at 2, the difference between a comma stroke and a teardrop is a comma stroke starts with a round top, thick top, and comes down to a point. So those are comma strokes. Okay. And so it's not as pointed, hence you get a nice round shape at the top of the stroke. Okay, now we're going to do some dots. So when you're making dots, you need to get a really good mixture, a nice liquid, creamy mixture, not too wet, so you need to drag down plenty of pigment, make a good mix there, and gently fill it up. And then, sounds counterintuitive, but then just gently wipe off the excess. So you need to keep some paint inside, and then just with the very tip I scoop up some paint, And with that, you can make the perfect dots, okay, because you've almost got a kind of little dollop, a blob at the end. There's many different sorts of dots I teach. Some are simply flowing at the end of a stroke, like the end of one of these, for instance. And they just follow the flow. Or you can do what I call tri-dots. So filling in space, really useful just to put little groups of 3. Fantastic for filling space if you have some. So just tri-dots. And then what I call a fairy trail. So this would just be very small. So just by a small amount of pressure, you can take these dots in a direction, randomly moving around as though a fairy has just left a trail of dots. I suggest you sort of go up and around. You know, you can take this across the face. I often do if I'm painting fairies, just do a trail heading off anywhere you like, from one side to the other, top to bottom. So that's my fairy trail. What are my other ones doing? Polka dots, again, for filling space is brilliant. If you can evenly space them, which is not always, I mean, it's not too difficult, but just be aware and space them out. And you can fill in. And as I say, this brush is just brilliant for dots. But remember, always get a nice liquid mix, nice creamy mix, then a scoop on the tip, and then off you go. So if you can evenly space these, they really do look good. In fact, you can see I've almost got them in pretty good lines. And then let's show you a few with my the leopard spots. Again, with leopard spots, what I suggest you do is you're making a kind of circle, but not a complete one. So the leopard spot should be, you know, it should roughly fit within a circle. So it's a matter of kind of very quickly doing a splodge in a semicircle shape, and then add sort of 1 or 2, a smaller one around it. So you can do it very quickly. So I never use a stencil when I'm doing leopard spots. It's just too quick to do this. And they always look much better. But always make sure they are curved. Okay, so that's all it takes. Now that's a leopard. Cheetahs, their spots are, these are called rosettes, these ones here, but leopards have rosettes like that, but cheetahs just have dots. And it's good to use a pointy brush almost, because they're not perfectly round dots. You can just randomly push and you'll get different sort of shapes, and that's perfect for doing cheetahs. Doesn't matter what shape they are really, but try and get them going a bit smaller as you come in towards the center of the face. That's what I tend to do. I make them bigger on the outside here and make them smaller as you come in towards the center, but they don't need to be neat. That's why they're so fast as well. Okay, so that's the cheetah, that's the leopard. Right, what else? Oh, I was going to show you some spider legs. Now for these you need the Desert Island brush, either the 4 or the 6. I'll do it in black. So again, when you're doing line work, I'm going to get a good mix, a nice, very liquid, inky mix. And as you can see, I always make sure there is some space to mix. I'm using this little gap down in here. You can see that all right. So very, very inky and quite liquid. Fill the brush as before and then very gently wipe off so you get rid of the excess. And then let's do a little spider. Let's do it that way. So all these Linework and loads more is all on the Fam Club website as well, for members there. Right, so a little spider. Let's do his head and a body. And I tend to always leave some spare space like that because it actually saves you having to do highlight if you haven't got time. And then all we're going to do is start on the tip. You pull it out, press down slightly, so you're almost making a teardrop. So thin to thick. All right, so when you've got to that point, then it's just flick up. Just flick the line away. Press and then flick, make it long. Press, flick. So that's the joint, if you like, the knee joint. And make sure your spider legs always come from the center of the body because they're actually attached to the abdomen down here, just at the beginning, near the head. They're a bit high, but never mind. So it's press and then flick. And it's just a quick way of making them look pretty realistic. It's just that flick. Oh, I know, I was going to show you the unicorn twist, wasn't I? Let's do that. I'll do it in black so you can see it. So again, nice liquid mix, gently wipe off. I'll just put that a bit higher. Okay, so what we're going to do here is make a TTT stroke basically, but give it a slight angle. So it's thin, thick, thin. All right, this is the start of a unicorn horn. Now you've got to imagine where it's ending up, which is going to be about there. Okay, so it's thin, thick, thin, and each one must be smaller than the previous. All right, so that's all there is to it really. It's just doing those little TTT strokes. You can start at the top if you like. And just make them wider as you go. So if you haven't got a stencil or you don't like using stencils, that's another way of doing a unicorn horn. Let's finish with some nice simple dragon drops. Always useful. Again, it's the fine line. Drop. So you've got to rest on your little finger. And always make sure you've got a lovely tip point here, so not too much paint. And start on the move. That's how you get your fine line at the beginning. And you can even, you know, do lots of wiggly lines and then finish. So it doesn't have to just be in a straight line. You can curve them around as well. Yeah, so really all I've used today is the Desert Island brush. That's the number 4 and the number 6. And also I showed you a bit with the dot comma, doing the dots and teardrops. It's worth trying to be aware of the difference in brushes and how the dot comma is brilliant for doing dots and comma strokes. Remember that? Dots and comma strokes. but it hasn't got such a good point to create this long line. So that's where you need the fine tipped one of the desert island to pull a thin line and finish with a teardrop. All right, so comma strokes, teardrops. That's the difference there. Right, I'm going to stop painting and I'm going to just turn this around and say goodbye to you all. So thank you for joining me today. It's always lovely to see people coming along. It's very weird when you paint and there's nobody watching. So thanks for coming along. And as I say, if you want to know more, then have a look at the fan club. I'll put the details down below, or Charlotte probably will. She's super efficient. And if you want to know more about the brushes or buy a set, then you can go onto the Facade Academy website. So it's just www.facadeacademy.co.uk. And that's where the brushes are. But yeah, thanks a lot, everyone. And I hope to see you all go well. Remember, every month, first Tuesday of the month at 2 p.m, it's tips at 2. So they're always free. And then they're transferred onto the YouTube. All right, everyone, I'll say goodbye now. And thank you.